In the summer of 2019, Newark, New Jersey made national headlines over elevated trace lead levels in the drinking water in older homes in part of the city. The city found itself in the grasp of media sensationalism and oversimplification. Headlines screamed of poison water and a city without clean water, and the inevitable comparison to Flint, Michigan. Since that time, less than 2 years, the city of Newark is close to finishing a vital water infrastructure program no other American city has ever done. By the summer of 2021, the city will have checked over 20,000 homes for lead service lines and replaced all that were found, estimated to be over 18,500, eradicating harmful lead traces from the water of Newark residents. When the job is finished, Newark will be able to say that no city has replaced such a huge volume of lead lines as quickly. No city has ever replaced these lines chiefly through its own financing and financial resources, and no city has ever done it with no cost to residents in either capital outlay, tax increase, or water rate. This is the story behind the headlines. It is a story about the will to get the job done and not put it off for generations. It is a story about how Newark's pride and investment in the water system under the Baraka administration made the job possible. It is a story about historic record-keeping and modern technology providing a roadmap to solve the problem, and now gives other cities a blueprint for solving the same problem. The story begins in 2016 when Newark aggressively tackled lead exceedancies in the schools due to old fixtures.
We got schools that were built before Abraham Lincoln, so at the end of the day, some of those fixtures are probably there. We removed some of those fixtures, closed them off.
Acting on that red flag, Senate Democrats today introduced a bill that requires immediate statewide testing for lead in all school drinking water and mandates test results get publicized.
And I'm told that there's no law that mandates pretty much anything. And I'm saying, you got to be kidding me.
Newark's role in these critical changes would foreshadow how aggressively the city would handle a developing problem no one saw coming, when, in June 2017, 13 of the 100 randomly tested homes showed lead exceedances, the first in personal homes in 25 years.
First time in 25 years, it was a shock to all of us. That immediately triggered us to do a desktop analysis to find out what happened.
Newark launched a public awareness campaign. It informed homeowners with the elevated levels, invited thousands of water customers to 2 teletown meetings, sharing by phone the same information mailed to them with their water bills, listing a series of warnings, do's and don'ts, and the dangers of ingesting lead and the harm it can do to children and pregnant women.
The city also hired CDM Smith, an internationally renowned engineering and construction firm specializing in major water and transportation infrastructure projects, to conduct an audit of water quality, water source monitoring and testing, and corrosion control.
When we first got the hint of a problem that the water chemistry might be out of balance, we very quickly that ramped up into a very aggressive program to solve the problem.
We harvested a pipe from a lead service line, and we decided to send that to the EPA so that they could look at it on a microscopic level and determine scientifically what was going on so that we could address the problem directly.
One fact never reported widely is that Newark began discussions with the state about a major lead line replacement program as early as the summer of 2017 and began an inventory of all lead lines, made easier by thorough record keeping of the water department from when the city was expanding.
When they first got the exceedance in Newark, I was like, wait a minute, where is this coming from? And Kareem said lead service lines. And I said, how does this go away? He said, well, you got to get rid of the lead service lines.
These impeccable records were evidence of Newark's historic pride in its water and how its growth and economic development depended on it, from the breweries before the turn of the 20th century to the neighborhood and downtown redevelopment of today. After a dysentery outbreak in the 1880s, the city of Newark decided to stop drawing water from the Passaic River and began to piece together a swath of rugged, tree-covered regions of the northern third of the state. This area of undeveloped and uninterrupted nature became the Newark watershed, which at nearly 37,000 acres is larger than any of the 11 state forests or 29 parks, except for the massive Wharton State Forest and the Pine Barrens.
So now we need to make sure that we continue to invest in that system and continue to upgrade this water utility. It's a vital asset to the community and the future growth of the city. And we're the 3rd oldest major city with the 3rd oldest major infrastructure. We need to invest.
The water system is owned by the city, There's not many water systems left in the country where the municipality actually owns it.
Less than a year after the first notification to the public, while the city was continuing to test, investigate the cause, and educate the public, Newark's lead situation became the subject of an intent to sue notice by the National Resources Defense Council. The powerful group publicized their action through the media and created a false narrative that the city had covered up its lead trace problem.
The minute the opportunity came, they just jumped on it without even paying attention to what our side of the story was, what they thought we had to say. They actually believed that what we were saying was illegitimate, that we were making things up, that we was just trying to defend ourselves, because they thought we were Flint. And what history has proven is that all of those people were indicted for all of that stuff. And in Newark, we're being celebrated as a model.
The city provided evidence that it had contacted and educated citizens the year before. The city also explained the problem impacted only half the city, and problematic lead lines were never used in large apartment buildings, public housing, offices, or other institutions such as commercial buildings like larger restaurants or any buildings or homes built after 1956, when the city outlawed lead lines, 30 years before the federal government.
The city's water main, in some of the larger buildings, the city's water main is made of ductile iron or cast iron. This is a cast iron pipe. Right? City's water main. City's water main is not made of lead.
Still, sensational headlines in national publications screamed of toxic lead and tainted or poisoned water. One report was subtitled, "A Month Inside a City Without Clean Water."
The truth gets stopped at the corner. It's over. Nobody wants to hear the truth because it's boring, right? But when you're talking about a lie, there's a lot of drama in the lie, right?
The good stories that get a lot of press are usually the bad stories, the bad news stories. To some degree, I wish some of that same press would come back to Newark today to really celebrate the really remarkable achievement that has been made here in a very, very short period of time. It really is an unprecedented accomplishment.
While trying to determine and fix the lead trace problem and now battling the NRDC and the media to defend its reputation, the city was dealt a devastating blow: the sudden death of Water and Sewer Director Andrea Hall Adebowale.
When Director Andrea Adebowale died, my mentor, my sister, my friend, it was a difficult time for me. I realized that Andrea, one of her last messages to the mayor was, "Mayor, we're going to get control of this situation. We didn't do anything wrong, and we got a plan to rectify it and stay on that plan." And that's what we did.
When Kareem Adim speaks of working his way up, he means it literally. Director Adim was 20 years old in 1991, when he got seasonal work filling potholes for the city. 3 decades later, he is the director of one of the city's most vital departments. Each step along the way, Director Adim got licensed and certified, whether it was to operate heavy equipment or understand the complex chemistry of safe drinking water.
I was really impressed with his capabilities, worked up, from a laborer's position through the ranks. Nobody knows more about the infrastructure in the city of Newark. And his dedication and his commitment to the city and his work ethic was unparalleled. And that's, been evidenced through the last 2 years of our working together.
But he knew exactly what to do. He partnered with the right people. He knew who to bring on and who we needed on our team. He was the right person at the right time.
Mayor Baraka's determination to fully replace lead service lines faced several financial and legislative hurdles. As the Environmental Protection Agency examined city pipe samples to nail down a cause, Mayor Baraka lined up funding for the lead service replacement line program. In June of 2018, the Newark City Council passed a bond ordinance of $75 million to replace 15,000 lead service lines in 10 phases over 8 years, while the state legislation was passed to allow the city to use public money on private property improvement.
The problem with the service line is that the service line belongs to the property owner and not the city. Normally, we don't have the right or the ability to use public money to fix people's individual private property.
But the legislature not only saw the need for Newark to move forward, they also saw the partnership in terms of the county executive and the governor, the administration.
the state has allowed us to do such, and we are in a process of making sure we replace people's service lines.
The groundbreaking of Newark's lead service line replacement program will not only improve the quality of life for my family, but I believe many others in the city of Newark. So thank you so much for this program.
So I commend the mayor for his effort to help the homeowners with greater financing here in Newark so that he can minimize the cost to the individual homeowners and enable more people to have their lead lines replaced, which is the ultimate and the best and the surest way to protect the health of their very vulnerable children and all the people who drink the water here, including the mayor's mother, as I understand. She's in line to get her line replaced.
The second piece of legislation the city needed to create an efficient program was to allow the city to replace lines without the property owner's consent.
What we're working on now, because we have a lot of renters in the city, and we have to go after find these landlords, and instead of doing that, we want to be able to just go on their property and fix the lead service line.
And basically what it said was that it would allow municipalities to have access to private property to replace lead lines. While it was really couched and formulated for the use of the city of Newark, I believe that this piece of legislation in years future can help other municipalities that will be faced with this crisis. The crisis that faced the city of Newark is not unique to our hometown. The crisis that's faced the city of Newark is one that is resonating, unfortunately, throughout many communities.
On October 8th of 2018, the city finally received the EPA's pipe analysis.
The study showed that the corrosion control presently being used has not been effective in various parts of the North Ward, parts of the South Ward, the West Ward, and the Central Ward. The East Ward has been unaffected.
The mayor announced the city would begin handing out free, pure water filters to any resident who wanted them.
The health department will have filters, so will the rec centers in the city of Newark. They'll be open a little later at rec centers. We'll also have a team of people that will be going door to door, making sure we pass out filters, particularly in affected areas. We do have a list of areas that are affected that will be made available to the public and to everyone else. So you'll know if your household is in that area.
And a new corrosion control system would be introduced, while education and lead service replacement continued.
We have and are introducing the new corrosion control inhibitor into the water.
Zinc orthophosphate was selected for its track record in reducing lead. It is a safe, food-grade additive. Orthophosphate essentially works as a coating on lead pipe and other plumbing material containing lead.
So there were 3 approaches to our plan at that time: distribute the 40,000 pure filters and cartridges. The intermediate approach, which was to start delivering the orthophosphate from a satellite feed station, which would be the new corrosion inhibitor that we would be using. And the third would be the replacement of all lead service lines throughout the city.
Then, in August, the story took another turn, when a small sample of pure water filters showed less than desired results in eliminating lead.
We, at this date, have maybe given out about 39,000 pure water filters, to mitigate those households that have lead service lines. We went to 3 homes with the help of the EPA. We tested 4 water filters in 3 homes. 2 of those water filters came back where the lead was not reduced to a level that we were comfortable with.
Everybody, young and old, big and small, regardless of where you are in this state, in this community, certainly in Newark, in this country, clean water is a right, not a privilege. The mayor and his team and our administration, and I have to say we have worked seamlessly together. There's been no daylight between us, and it will remain that way. And I can't say enough good things about the mayor's leadership. So you can go back to moments in time. I'd go back to the mayor's, among other steps, in recent history, the mayor's announcing a 10-year program to deal with replacing of the lead pipes. And we're honored as a state to have put double-digit $1 million behind that this year.
3 filters out of a distribution of 40,000 is clearly not scientifically representative of what's going on with the filters. So despite that, the mayor, in an abundance of caution, decided to hand out bottled waters to the affected area until we got more information.
The media descended on the city, broadcasting images of Newark residents lining up for bottled water or carrying away cases.
Hundreds of people had to line up in the summer heat and long lines to pick up cases of bottled water, many wondering if Newark may be the new Flint, Michigan, where residents were exposed to dangerous lead levels in their drinking water.
The inevitable comparisons to Flint ignored important facts. Newark never changed its water source and never stopped corrosion control to save money, and reported all its findings to the state and federal government as required by law. But within 8 weeks, the city was vindicated when a larger sampling proved that the filters were 99% effective when used correctly, which allowed the city to curtail the bottled water program. But in the meantime, the game changed, dramatically.
Over the last week, the mayor and I have been meeting, and we are proud to announce a partnership in which the Essex County Improvement Authority will lend the city of Newark $120 million that the city can use only for their pipe replacement program.
With this new money, we're anticipating that no one would have to pay anything to get their lead service lines actually replaced. We are going to replace approximately 18,000 lead service lines in homes across the city of Newark. And we are so grateful for this additional support to help us dramatically accelerate this important work to replace every lead service line in the city to about 24 to 30 months.
We all know that we have to work faster and harder and together, importantly, to restore residents' trust in their water.
We were all focused on one idea and one purpose, and that was to make life better for all of us who live in the great city of Newark.
Once the state approved the deal, the city hired more contractors and unleashed a legion of construction crews that on some weeks were replacing more than 75 lead pipes a day. An apprentice program put Newark residents to work on those crews, and suddenly the odometer for line replacement began to tick by the hundreds each week.
Yes, I was one of the first ones to sign up for the replacement of the lead pipes, and I made the call, and I thought that they were going to come in and dig up my lawn, and it was going to cause some challenges for me to replace the grass. But these men literally pulled the lead pipe out of the ground. They dug down right here, connected it to the lead pipe, right? They pulled the pipe out and at the same time pulled the copper pipe through. I thought that that was an incredible job. And right now, my house has copper from the streets to the main, and I'm very, very happy about that.
And more good news for Newark residents. A windfall from an agreement with the Port Authority over long-standing disputes meant that taxpayers and water issuers would see no increased fees or rates to pay for the bond.
They're not going to pay. There's not going to be an increase in their water bill and their taxes because of this.
The city of Newark took out a $120 million loan from the county to pay for the replacement of thousands of lead service lines. But after renegotiating their lease with the Port Authority, which runs the seaport and airport out of Newark, they'll get an extra $155 million over the next 30 years.
The water's on, yeah, I see it. Okay.
A cash infusion that will more than cover the project.
We're the only city in America that is fixing their lead service lines without the help of anybody else who've raised their own dollars and raised their own money to pay the debt service at the same time in 24 to 30 months.
This is a good thing.
People who live here welcomed the news but said the work had to be done at any cost.
No, the main thing was to get in the water. That was paramount.
Newark has been distributing water bottles and filters for months after tests showed dangerously high levels of lead in drinking water.
I've never had a situation where I felt like Flint.
Definitely going to use this money to help us pay the debt service around the $120 million that we borrowed from the county. I know there have been a lot of folks wondering about how we would pay the debt service. Obviously, this is one of the ways that we get it done.
Since that time, October of 2019, the city has replaced over 16,500 lines, bringing the total to more than 17,000 and the full goal of over 18,500 in sight, not losing any momentum during the COVID pandemic.
This has been, it's been a long process, but it's been a team effort between the city, the county, and the state coming together and working together as a team for the people of this great city, Newark, where I was born and raised in.
In the spirit of all of the craziness that's been going on for a long time, thought maybe you guys would like to report some good news.
Also, as of the summer of 2020, the orthophosphate corrosion control has tamped down the lead levels below EPA accepted levels in the pipes that had not been replaced.
There's this saying that goes, a people without a vision shall perish. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to have leadership in Mayor Raj Baraka and Director Adim that I believe in and that I can stand behind.
You know, we had a vision and we had a plan. And I'll tell everybody, we tweaked that plan when it was needed, and it has us here today.
I look at this as, you know, and I always say it now, like no other mayor will have to deal with what I dealt with, will never have to go through what I had to go through about these lead service lines, because we pulled them out. And that, you know, my family's children, my children, their children will not have to deal with this. With the help of people who want to help us, and the cooperation and collaboration of the people who understand our journey, and with the will of the people who live here to get it done. It's not an easy task. It doesn't mean we're going to do everything correctly, that we're not going to fall down from time to time and place to place. But it does mean we have a right to fall down on our own, and we have a right to pick ourselves back up, and a right to keep moving forward, and we will.
From the very first inkling of residential lead trace exceedances in 13 homes in 2017, the city followed state and federal protocols to report and investigate the problem in a scientific and responsible way. Despite the dark days of the bottled water distribution, which put a crisis label on a water situation the city was incredibly proactive in handling from the start, moving directly and systematically to the solution at hand. Over 18,500 lead service lines replaced, and all harmful lead eradicated once and for all.
Obviously, I think the collective will to get this done is really what drove this forward. In hindsight, this was a really big thing to take on, and almost impossible timelines to get it done in.